The Rangers hang on for a desperately needed 3-2 win against the Buffalo Sabres. We discuss why this was Mika's best game of the season. We talk about Keandre Miller's injury, and we give some much-deserved props to the fourth line.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1202 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you will get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Rangers, it was not perfect. I think that's probably the understatement of the season, but they got the job done. They found a way to hang on against the Buffalo Sabres. There's certainly some things you can nitpick. They gave up too many odd man rushes. They were a little bit shaky defending the rush in general. Another really shaky third period where they got outshot 16-5. They give up a couple of very late goals in this game, which is obviously never ideal. The power play was a mess at times in this game for the Rangers. They score on the first one, and then after that, it was all downhill. But the bottom line, they did what they had to do. Right now, any port in a storm, you'll take it any way you can get it based on how things have gone lately, based on how much drama has been surrounding this team, based on how many players have been underperforming lately. They got to win. That's what really counts, and hopefully they can build on it. If you turn around and lose the next game 5-1, then this win here, imperfect though it was, starts to lose some of its significance. But I will say this. There's an important stat that I got to throw out for you guys right here, and we're going to get to Mika Zibanejad and why this was very possibly his best game of the season, certainly one of his best games. But important stat, the Rangers are now 1-0 since bringing back the group hug that they do at practice. We saw this a couple of times early last season. Apparently, they haven't been doing it all that recently, but Molly Walker did post this. She was at the practice, before this game, and she saw the team, obviously all go to center ice, all come together. Peter Laviolette was in there as well, and they do like a big group hug. Peter Laviolette says it's called a huddle, but the fans really ran with it as a group hug, and obviously they did it a lot last year. The vibes were immaculate last year, and hopefully we can get back to that this year. Bottom line, they're 1-0 after the hug. So take that for what it's worth. We'll see. Hopefully, things get better. I'm not sure, who in that hug or huddle or whatever you want to call it was addressing the team. Usually that would be a job for the captain, but the Rangers don't have a captain right now. I like to think hopefully guys like Kreider, Panarin, Fox, Mika, the guys that wear the letters, hopefully they had something to say. But Mika Zibanejad, as I alluded to just a second ago, played what I thought was quite possibly his best game of the season for the Rangers. Just more noticeable in general, skating hard, a couple of good rushes for Mika, into the Buffalo zone there. Some really good passing for Mika Zibanejad in this game as well. And of course, he scores the first goal of the game to give the Rangers a 1-0 lead, and that score held up for a very long time until it got a little bit crazy at the end of the third period there. But the Rangers are up 1-0 for the vast majority of this game. They score on a power play. You've got Trocheck losing the faceoff, but a nice play by Adam Fox. Buffalo tried to clear. He was able to knock it down and prevent it from leaving the zone. That's something that when Fox is right, he does that about as well as any defenseman in the NHL. He's very, very good at doing whatever he can to keep the puck in the offensive zone. He did it here, passes over to Panarin on the left side, then Panarin goes across the ice to Mika on the right side, and Mika scores on a wrist shot, passed up the opportunity to potentially unleash a one-timer, and I'm glad he did, because the one-timer, as we've discussed, just has not been there for Mika Zibanejad so far this season, so I'm glad that he went a little bit deeper into the playbook and whipped a wrister home and scored. It was also interesting to see Panarin and Mika on different sides of the ice during this power play here. I was curious to see if that would continue in this game, and it mostly did not. The other power plays, Mika was back on his spot on the left side and Panarin was on the right side. I think here this was a case where the power play had just begun. I mean, they scored in literally 7 or 8 seconds after the puck dropped here on their power play. So I think it was just a case of that's just where they both happen to be on the ice at that time. But it worked. I wouldn't mind them switching it up every once in a while to kind of you get the power play going again. The power play's been okay, but get Mika Zibanejad going again, I would say, more than anything else. The other note here, this is goal number 300 for Mika Zibanejad in his career, so a big congratulations to Mika there, and it's also goal number 236 for Mika with the New York Rangers. So nice to see him come through with a goal here. And, they celebrate the goal. And you could tell, a relief from Mika Zibanejad once that goal was scored. And hopefully it's something that he can build on going forward. He certainly built on it for the rest of this game because, like I said, I do think he was very, very good in this one. And it was interesting because he actually got off to kind of a rough start in this game. He took a penalty like 10 seconds into the game, and you're kind of rolling your eyes and thinking like, oh, man, here we go again. Not just from a Mika perspective, but an entire New York Ranger team perspective. Slow starts have been an issue. And recently they've kind of done this like 180 where now they're starting pretty good, but they're fading in the third period. We saw more of that in this game as well. But yeah, taking a penalty 10 seconds of the game, never an ideal start for the Rangers or anybody else. But Mika really took off, I thought, in the second period. He had a line of nice plays in the middle stanza. There was a play where he gets the blue line. He plays the puck between his own legs, kind of circles back, and then makes a nice pass across the ice to Braden Schneider. The shot was denied, but a nice play there by Mika, creating and, obviously finding his teammate. There was also a situation where Mika came away with a steal in the neutral zone, ended up sending a pass over to Kaapo Kakko. Kakko was unable to convert, but again, Mika just more active offensively, defensively in all three zones. It's a step in the right direction for sure. There was also a situation where the Rangers were basically robbed, highway robbery by the goalie. Mika anticipated a pass behind the Saber net and intercepted it. Now, on one hand, the Saber on this play, I forget who it was. He basically passed the puck right to Mika. So it's the easiest takeaway that Mika Zibanejad will ever get in his life. I think you or me probably could have stolen that puck there, given that it was passed right to him. But Mika, he gets the puck. And I do think he was anticipating this a little bit, that the defenseman might look to go, back around behind the boards there. And Mika picks it up, immediately passes in front to Kreider. Kreider's coming toward the net. Kreider with a shot from the doorstep. Just a better save by the goalie. But a nice play by Mika there. Easy steal, easy takeaway, but anticipating the play, I think, is more impressive than anything else that Mika Zibanejad did on this play. And then, of course, quickly getting the puck in front of the net to Kreider for a grade A scoring chance that unfortunately just would not go. Then there was the power play. There were a couple times in this game where Mika, he's going to try a couple of one-timers, and that's fine. My big thing is let's at least work in some other things. And we saw him score on a wrist shot. I do think Mika in this game, there were at least two one-timers that he attempted that looked better than what we've seen recently. Maybe he's been working at it in practice. I mean, who's to say for sure? But a couple of one-timers in this game for Mika where you at least believe there was a chance that he could score. The save was made both times, and I don't think that they were necessarily the most accurate one-timers ever. But at least it was on net. At least he hit it pretty good. There was good velocity on these one-timers here from Mika Zibanejad, and he forced the goalie to make a save. So a step in the right direction. That's what this game was, really, for Mika. And I guess the Rangers in general, I mean, I know there's going to be some people that look at the Sabres. They had lost 7 in a row coming into this. They're obviously not exactly a Stanley Cup contender right now, and the Rangers barely eked by. But like I said earlier, any port in a storm, take it any way you can get it. They found a way to get a win on the road. You get the 2 points and you move on, and hopefully you build on it this weekend when the Rangers will have a back-to-back. But we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to discuss the injury to K'Andre Miller. He was injured in the second period, finished the second period, did not return for the third period, and was ruled out with an upper body injury. But we'll talk about, the injury, Miller's performance in this game, because he's another one who I thought played better than we've seen him play, at least recently. And what the contingency plan could be, who might step into this lineup if K'Andre Miller is unable to go in the next game. Hopefully he's back, but if not, obviously the Rangers have to have some kind of a backup plan. So we'll discuss all that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by PrizePicks. If you love sports, you're going to love PrizePicks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money, whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports. PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the action. Here's what you need to get started today. You can win up to 200 times your money on PrizePicks, get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. No need to win. The $50 is guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers fun weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where select player projections are discounted up to 25%. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. PrizePicks, run your game. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is also brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. Big shout out to the everydayers as always. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. In the next episode, we're actually going to do a bonus episode. Probably going to be dropping tomorrow, which would be Friday. That would be our 6th episode of the week, because obviously there's been a whole bunch of stuff going on with the Rangers, but bonus episode and also kind of a catch-up episode. I want to circle back and talk a little bit about these accusations by the Senators that the Rangers were tampering with Brady Tkachuk. We'll talk about Tkachuk a little bit more in general as well, and is there anything to this? Is there any way the Rangers could pull off some kind of a deal for Brady Tkachuk? I think the answer is no, not to spoil the episode, but we'll at least look at every avenue that the Rangers might have if that's what they want to do. We'll also talk about the acquisition of Urho Lakanainen. I think I'm getting better with the pronunciation here, but I'll just defer to Sam Rosen once we see him make his debut. But we'll talk about him. He was obviously the player that came over in the Jacob Trouba trade. And Trouba himself, we're going to give him a proper send-off because it wasn't all doom and gloom when he was here. I was certainly critical of Jacob Trouba. I know I'm not the only Ranger fan, but there were some good moments and some fun moments mixed in there as well. And he was the Ranger captain, and we'll talk about some of those better moments in our next episode. But for right now, another big storyline coming out of this game, the injury to K'Andre Miller. Like I said, one of his better games last night, so this is obviously unfortunate timing. He obviously was only on the ice for a limited amount of time due to the injury. Got 13 minutes and 42 seconds. He was an even plus-minus. 1 shot on goal, 2 block shots, 1 hit, 1 giveaway, 1 takeaway. But, beyond the stats, I think just the eye test is what you go by more than anything here. There was a play early in this game where Miller made a really nice play in his own zone and then also went on the rush as well, had, a chance to score. Basically, you've got the Sabres with the puck in the Rangers zone, and he's able to force the puck out, essentially just poke it away from his opponent there. He picks it up in stride. He's got a whole ton of speed going up the ice on the left side, got past his guy. There were a couple of Sabres kind of bearing down on him. It became pretty obvious that he was not going to be able to get to the front of the net. So with everybody kind of closing in on him and no one really to pass it to either, he decided to let the shot fly, and it was a fairly routine save, but, still a nice job by Miller in this instance here. And then right after this, great stick by K'Andre Miller during a Buffalo Sabre rush into the Ranger zone. Miller was actually trailing this play. They had a forward back, and I think Schneider was back there too. So they were in decent shape, but Miller's, again, trailing the play. He's able to catch up to his guy and just take the puck right away from him clean and skate away with it. So that was great to see as well. Unfortunately, the one miscue that Miller had in this game essentially resulted in him getting injured. If this is indeed the play where he got injured, which it looks like it was. I don't want to say for sure, but just kind of looking at everything that happened here and the hit that he took, you put the pieces together, it seems pretty likely that this was very likely the play. No guarantees, but very likely the play. So basically, Rangers have the puck in their own zone, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty easy exit. Buffalo they didn't really have guys in the Rangers zone at this point, and there's a cross-ice pass, and Miller just kind of misses it, just couldn't handle the pass for one reason or another. So he's scrambling to get the puck. The Rangers are kind of running around in their own zone now. Buffalo sees what's happening. They get a couple forwards jumping into the Rangers zone there. It led to a decent chance for Jason Zucker. Rangers were able to survive it. But, yeah, when all this was happening and there's a scramble for the puck, Miller took a hit up very high. And it's funny because he didn't even go down to the ice, but it clearly was kind of an awkward hit and a high hit, and it staggered him a little bit. I don't think it was dirty or anything like that. But that seemed like it was just an awkward enough and high enough hit that you probably believe watching this game that that's where the injury likely did occur. So he actually ended up staying out there for the rest of the second period, did Miller, but fairly early in the third period, he wasn't on the bench, and it became, from various reports, I think the Ranger Twitter handle had it, or the Rangers PR Twitter handle, that K'Andre Miller had indeed suffered an upper body injury, would not be returning for this game. And I have not seen a definitive update on Miller's status. It is now Thursday morning as I'm recording this. So, we'll see if if there's any development there. But if K'Andre Miller is not going to be able to play in the next game, and I hope he is, because again, I'd like to see him hopefully build on this game. But you have to, if you're the Rangers, go take a look at the depth chart and decide who's going to step in his place. If you go on Puckpedia right now, the Rangers, are showing 8 defensemen on the NHL roster right now. It's the 6 guys that you saw in last night's game, plus Connor Mackey, plus Vakanainen. Of course, Vakanainen is still injured. He's on the IR. He was wearing the green jersey at practice, and it does sound like he will be back or will be available sooner rather than later. So we'll see. They've got some options here. But my preference is not either one of those 2 guys that I just mentioned. It's nothing against Vakanainen. It's nothing against Mackey. But my preference right now, if K'Andre Miller has to miss time in the short term or in the long term, first guy to get a crack at it, Matthew Robertson. It has not always been smooth sailing for Matthew Robertson. We know he was a former second-round pick by the New York Rangers, and I want to say he's like 23 years old at this point, so not ancient or anything, but when you draft somebody second round, by now I think you would have probably have preferred for them to make their NHL debut. I mean, again, it's not like he's ancient. It's not like this is some career AHLer hanging on into his mid-30s here, but, he still has not made his debut. And when you saw the Rangers in need of a defenseman last season, whenever that, situation occurred due to injury or whatever it might have been, anytime the Rangers had to call somebody up, Robertson in theory was an option, but they would always go with somebody else. They called up Brandon Scanlon for a game last year. They called up Mackey. We just talked about him. They called him up for a game last year. Mackey actually ended up getting into a fight in that game against the Senators. We saw Chad Ruhwedel come over the deadline. He played 5 games for the Rangers last year. He played in 1 game for the Rangers this year. Even going back the year before that, I mean, in theory, Robertson could have been called up that year too, but they went with Ben Harper for a spell, and Nico Mikkola came over in a trade, and Robertson just never got the call. At some point, though, with Robertson, again, former second-round draft pick, somebody that obviously the Rangers were high on. I mean, if you take somebody in the first 2 rounds, very clearly you like this guy. At some point, it's like sink or swim, right? Just throw him out there and see what happens. And when you look at what's happened with the Ranger defensemen this season, so many of them have struggled so much that it gets to a point where I don't have a problem going with Matthew Robertson, because what's going to happen? Okay, worst case scenario, Matthew Robertson goes out there and he has a bad game or has a bad 2 games, and they send him back down to the Hartford Wolfpack. It's not like he'd be the first Ranger defenseman this season to have a bad game or have a bad 2 games. There are several Ranger defensemen on this roster, and one that used to be on this roster that had a lot more, rough showings than just 1 or 2. So for all those reasons, I'm all for giving this kid a chance. By all accounts, it sounds like he hasn't really done anything to turn heads with the Hartford Wolfpack, but at a certain point, like I said, my philosophy, sink or swim, throw him out there, give him a chance, and just see what happens. As far as what he's done with the Pack so far this season, 21 games, 1 goal, 11 assists. He is tied for 4th on the Hartford Wolfpack with 12 points. That's also the most by a defenseman on the Hartford Wolfpack. He's also a +5, and interesting time to have this dilemma if you're the Rangers as far as possibly needing another defenseman in your lineup, because last night the Wolfpack beat Hershey 3-0, and Robertson actually assisted on all 3 goals. So he's coming off of a really strong performance. It feels like at a certain point it's now or never. After this season, he's a restricted free agent with arbitration rights. Give him a chance. I mean, and again, it's nothing against like these veteran defensemen, like whether it's Harper or Scanlon or Mackey, but they're veteran journeymen at this point. All those guys that I just mentioned are in their late 20s. I don't think there's like any, sudden spike in play. Like they're going to be like phenomenal defensemen if the Rangers call them up and give them a chance. Robertson, at least in theory, has some upside. And again, this is your homegrown guy that you took in the 2nd round. Sooner or later, you owe it to yourself to give him a chance and just know for sure, okay, maybe there's something here. Or, no, you know what? This may not ever happen with Matthew Robertson. He may not have a future here. So I'm all for it. I know the Rangers have to go with the lineup that they believe gives them the best chance to win. But I don't know, man. Like, are they going to have an infinitely better chance to win the next game if they go with Mackey or Ruhwedel or Harper rather than Matthew Robertson? I mean, I just don't think it would make that much of a difference. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Robertson just isn't up to snuff and isn't ready for the NHL. Maybe the Rangers aren't sure that he ever will be. But at a certain point, like I said, the theme here is sink or swim. So Robertson is my choice to step in for Miller if Miller has to miss any time. I hope Miller doesn't have to miss any time because, like I said, that game was a step in the right direction. And I know that a theme for this episode and a theme among Ranger fans right now is, okay, great job. You guys barely got by the Buffalo Sabres 3-2. I get that. Miller's out there against, it's not like he's against, the truly elite forwards in the NHL. They've got some good players, do the Sabres. But look, bottom line, right now, you'll take a win any way you can get it. You'll take a better performance from this team any way you can get it. And Keandre Miller individually, you'll take a solid game from him any way you can get it. And hopefully, like I said, he's okay. He can get back out there and build on what I thought was overall a pretty solid performance for him in this game. So going to keep everything rolling in just a second. We do not talk about the fourth line enough on this podcast. I mean, on one hand, what time was there to do that these last handful of days here? You guys know. I mean, the Igor extension, the Trouba drama, everything with Drury going on behind the scenes. But it's time to give the blue-collar Rangers their due, and we're going to do that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by our very good friends at Indeed. We are driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for candidates is not to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with quality candidates faster. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, figure we can go ahead and talk a little bit about this Ranger fourth line that I thought just had a heck of a game in this one. And really, they've played some pretty solid, consistent, strong hockey for quite some time this season. Obviously, Brett Berard just got here. This was his sixth NHL game. But for the most part, I think the Ranger fourth line, and we've seen different iterations of it, but I think the guys that play on this fourth line for the Rangers have mostly held up their end of the bargain. You have to keep expectations in check, obviously, when it comes to scoring and offense. But overall, I think they've done a nice job, and we're going to single out specifically Berard, Carrick, and Edstrom for this one. And we'll start with Berard. Like I said, that was game number 6 of his NHL career. This kid, man, is just relentless when it comes to pursuing the puck. He just, every single shift, I tweeted this out last night, it looks like he's fired out of a cannon. There was a shift that he had and the fourth line had that was kind of making its rounds on social media. A lot of people really happy with what they were seeing on this shift. But Berard was all over the place. He's on the right side. He's fighting for the puck there. Puck goes around behind the net, up to the other side. He's over there. I think he was matched up with Greenway at one point. It was a really big player on the Sabres, so it very likely could have been Greenway, and he's battling him for the puck. And then the Sabres eventually get it loose from along the boards. It looks like they're going to carry it out of their zone. But by this point, Berard, again, shot out of a cannon. Now he's back on the right side of the offensive zone, so he's all over the place. And he's able to, as the Sabres are exiting, essentially just reach out his stick, poke the puck away. Sam Carrick picked it up and was able to get, pretty close to the net, took a shot. The save was denied, but just a relentless shift here from Brett Berard, and it seems to be par for the course for him. There's some people on social media saying that if our star players could play with that kind of just a relentless determination that Brett Berard showed on this play, then we're going to be all right. That's what we need from guys up and down this lineup, and Brett Berard obviously bringing it. There was another play that I really like this. He was behind the Sabres net in the second period with the puck, and he was able to just stop on a dime, cut back the other way. He's always doing everything a million miles an hour. Tried to score it on wraparound. Obviously was not quite able to finish it, but good stuff there as well. And then in the third period, and the Rangers did not play well at all in the third period. So this was a sorely needed play here. Brett Berard, Rangers have the puck in the Sabres zone. He makes a beeline. He's going straight for the net. Adam Fox has the puck along the boards on the other side, and Fox makes a really nice pass across the ice, looking for Berard for that backdoor tip in there, and Berard is hooked. This possibly could have been a goal had the penalty not occurred, but even with that being the case, it's obviously a good play by Berard, showing that explosiveness there, that willingness to get to the front of the net, and obviously proving too much for the Sabre defenseman to handle because the Sabres had to take a penalty to prevent what would have been a very, very good scoring chance for Berard and the Rangers. So Berard's been great. Part of me is disappointed right now because he's on the fourth line. I think even now, this early in his NHL career, he's capable of handling more. We saw when he debuted, they had a very short-lived line. It couldn't have lasted longer than maybe like a game or two, but it was Mika centering Cooley and Berard. And that was, the Rangers' second line, or it was listed as the second line when that was happening. So he got a chance right at the starting blocks in the top 6. We saw a game where, Riley Smith was scratched. And I think that was also another game where Berard moved up the lineup a little bit. So I'd love for him to be in the top 9. But he doesn't have to be in the top 9. And this goes back to something that we talked about with Berard even before the season started, because we're in the preseason. We got these rookie games. We got all the preseason games. Could Berard make the roster? Could Hoffman make the roster? Well, what are their roles going to be if they make it? And I said right then and there, Berard eventually will certainly be a top 9er, I think. But you can start him on the 4th line because he plays enough of a relentless style, a gritty style, an in-your-face style that I don't think he's going to be out of place there. He is smaller. We know that. And there are going to be some people that have some reservations about his lack of size. I don't have it in front of me. He's like, every time I look at it, it's always like smaller than I last remember. Let me look it up real quick here, because I want to say he's like 5'9" and like 150 pounds or so. Yeah, 5'9", 155 pounds for Brett Berard. So it is what it is. I mean, he can always put on more muscle and get a little bit heavier. The height probably isn't going to change at this point. Like I can't anticipate that happening. But the bottom line, you have 18 skaters on the ice in an NHL hockey game. Not every single one of them is going to be 6'5" and 230 pounds. You want some guys like that. You want a couple of giants out there for sure, but you can get by with a couple of smaller guys too. And I think with Berard, he's going to win. If there are any doubters, he's going to win them over, which is that relentless brand of hockey that we've been seeing him play and that was on full display in this game last night. I think also somebody else that deserves some props from the 4th line, we got to take a look at Sam Carrick. And this goes back to what I said about the 4th line in general, but as long as you keep expectations in check when it comes to Sam Carrick, you look at him as simply what he is. He is a 4th line center who will also kill some penalties and probably get about 11 or 12 minutes a night. He is nothing more or nothing less. That's basically what Sam Carrick is. But I think he's also somebody that understands that that's his role, understands his job description, and does it very, very well. The one thing that you can maybe nitpick about Carrick so far this season, and a couple of you guys pointed this out to me when I tweeted about him, a couple of weeks ago, maybe just a week ago, is that he is taking too many penalties. It does feel like for somebody that is on the 4th line and only gets about, 10, 11, 12 minutes per night, few too many minor penalties so far this season. I was thinking that it would eventually kind of like even out and it would come back to earth. He just took a couple penalties early in the season. But at this point, yeah, I'd like to see him get that under control a little bit. Something really underrated about Sam Carrick, though, he has been absolutely dominant in the faceoff circle. He is winning 58.1% of his faceoffs, and he's also got 40 hits in 28 games. It doesn't sound like a lot, but again, when you factor in the lack of ice time, that's a pretty solid amount per game for Sam Carrick. He's also got 6 points in 28 games. Again, it's not like otherworldly, obviously, but when you're talking about a 4th line center who's there to provide some physicality, provide some grit, win faceoffs, kill some penalties. I mean, we'll take the 6 points in 28 games. That's not like a minuscule amount or anything like that. And we've seen multiple times. We saw multiple times in this game alone. Sam Carrick, when he has the puck, very, very willing to drive to the net. And to kind of highlight a couple of his plays in this game, this is probably the best game that he's played thus far for the Rangers. There was a play early in this game when the Rangers were shorthanded. Carrick was able to basically just body his guy at the top of the Rangers zone and force the puck out of the zone and into the neutral zone. So that was great to see. There was also later in the first period, Carrick had a really hard drive to the net. He was looking to pass to Berard, but he ended up keeping the puck because the pass just wasn't there. He cut back in toward the net and ended up getting tripped, and he drew a penalty there and put the Rangers on the power play. Sadly, the Rangers were not able to convert. But then there was this play by Carrick in the second period, and this is the biggest play that he made all game. He only ends up with a secondary assist, but this goal does not get scored without what he did here. So basically, Carrick is on the ice. He's right at the red line, right in the center of the rink. He's moving from the right side to the left side. He receives a pass out of the Rangers zone, and he continues to move kind of horizontally, basically straight across the red line at center ice there. He turns to his right and heads toward the Buffalo zone. He almost threw like a stiff arm because what happened was when he received the pass, he's got somebody on his right that's pressuring him, trying to knock him off balance, trying to get the puck away from him. And he's shielding the puck very effectively. And he kind of stuck out his arm just for a second. It looked like he honestly threw a stiff arm, which is more of a football move than a hockey move. But regardless, that's what he did. And then he gets over the blue line. It's basically 1-on-3, and he recognized that. So then he stops, passes back to Fox. The Rangers get into the zone here, and then Fox takes a shot. It gets blocked, goes off the boards behind the net, bounces out in front of the net, and Riley Smith stuffs it home. So a little bit of puck luck there for the Rangers, but Carrick kind of single-handedly, I think, earned that puck luck for the Rangers on this play, because this was a determined effort, and he was able to force his way into the zone. And like I said, Fox gets the primary. Obviously, Smith gets the goal. This goal does not get scored without the efforts of Sam Carrick on this play. So he did a heck of a job here. And just the extracurriculars, too. There was a couple of times in this game where the temperature went up a little bit. It wasn't like out of control or anything like that, but if there was some pushing and shoving, there was a good chance that, Carrick was in the middle of that as well. So good stuff all around from Sam Carrick. And then Adam Edstrom. I didn't think Edstrom stood out quite as much as the other two in this game, but he's been a very steady presence on that fourth line for this team. He ended up with two hits and one block shot in this game. And like each of his line mates, Adam Edstrom drew a penalty in this game. So that's right. You have all three members of the Ranger fourth line drawing a penalty in this game. And I think, if I'm remembering this correctly, I think there was one in every period. Not 100% on that. Would have to check the box score, but you get the idea. All three of these fourth liners, through their work ethic and their willingness to drive and fight their way to the net, they end up drawing penalties. The unfortunate part about this is the Rangers went 1 for 4 on the power play. They scored on their first power play. The three penalties that were drawn by these three members of the fourth line, the Rangers didn't score on any of them. And frankly, the power play was kind of a mess on a couple of those opportunities as well. So that was unfortunate that their teammates couldn't, cash in. But again, really, really nice to see all three of these guys drawing a penalty and just playing strong hockey in general. And clearly Peter Laviolette noticed this as well, because all three of these guys, with less than 3 minutes to go in this game, and the Rangers up 2-1, they were out there for one of what was probably their final shift of the game. But you're getting into crunch time. You're getting into, the nitty-gritty time. And again, less than 3 minutes left. All three of these guys are on the ice, charged with the task of, protecting this 1-goal lead in a game that the Rangers desperately, desperately need to win. And of course, it ended up happening. You get the Fox empty netter. Buffalo scores with 37 seconds left, and the Rangers hang on. But yeah, good stuff all around. And one more thing that I wanted to mention here, Jimmy Vesey, he's almost the forgotten man. He's been scratched a couple of times. I don't think he's done anything wrong either. I think he's been fine when he's been out there playing that fourth line style, but all three of these guys just excelling in this game and seem to be tightening their hold on that fourth line spot. So that's something to keep an eye on going forward as well. But figure we can call it there. If you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.